Well, once upon a time, there was a man named John, some called him Jack, last name Franklin. And he did some work for a guy as a cattle drive cowboy on the Chisholm Trail. This man was my grandfather, or actually great-grandfather. He was my dad's mother's father. And at one time, Dad tells me that he had seen some receipts for $20 signed by Just Chisholm in payment for his cowboy work on the Chisholm Trail. There's another man that lives on the Chisholm Trail area and in Wichita, Kansas. His name is Don Frazier. He has a YouTube channel on here where he does some shaving every once in a while, and sometimes he does a little bit of cutting up and some fun things. When I first saw Don, I really got a kick out of him. You know, he's kind of a quiet gentleman, super nice guy. We've talked quite a bit since we met there, and I just had to ask him. Every video that I've seen, he wears this nice bathrobe, and I had pictured in my mind that he just had to be wearing some kind of slippers. So I asked him one day, what kind of slippers he was wearing when he makes these videos, and he said actually he wasn't wearing any, but what I had imagined was him in these fancy Romeos along with that robe there, almost like a smoking jacket. So anyway, I was talking with Don one day about, let's do something that you would like. And he requested the name Wichita, since it was the hub of the cattle shipment and sales back in the 1800s, even in the early 1900s. And it was right on the Chisholm Trail. In fact, usually the cattle would be driven from even South Texas and other outlying areas up the Chisholm Trail to Wichita, where they would either be shipped out by train or, either to the East Coast or to Chicago or Boston or, places like that. So there's quite a rich history of things around the city of Wichita, primarily the cattle industry. That's how it started out, but now it has become a very thriving city. It continued on with quite a lot of industry and is probably now the largest city in the state of Kansas. But befitting of the reason that Wichita became such a vital hub or city, we are going to introduce you to the Longhorn, and the soap is Wichita. Now, when coming up with the scent profile on this, Dawn had requested that we do something along the lines of what a cowboy who was on the Chisholm Trail might experience in scents or fragrances when he come into the town of Wichita. And so we have vetiver, which would represent the prairie grass, wood smoke for the campfires that he spent his time over, either branding or in having a meal at the evening. But I would imagine that when he got into town, he would want a good shave. So we've got some bay rum in there. And afterwards, he'd probably want a good cup of coffee. and then maybe go dance with one of the ladies that had just a little bit too much rose water on. So the scent profile is bay rum, vetiver, wood smoke, coffee, and rose. It starts out a little bit spicy and dark, a little bit of bite from the coffee, and then it smooths out to smell more of the grassy scents of the vetiver and the rose. And when it finally dries down, it's just a very dark, pleasant, floral scent. Probably lost some of its spiciness on the dry down, and it's just a dark scent. It kind of reminds me on the dry down of a cologne by Terry Mugler called Angel Men, which also has coffee in it. So you don't get as much of the rose in the Angel Men, but this one is very similar in the dry down. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and do a shave with that tonight. I've already got a little bit smeared down here in the bowl, in my little cowboy looking lathering bowl that I got at Goodwill for $1. So and tonight we're going to be using a straight razor called the Spike, and it is definitely showing its age, but I got it on the hones and I think that I've got a pretty decent edge on it. This is kind of almost a near wedge, so it might be just a little different than what I'm used to with the hollow grind blades that I've been using so far, but we're going to go ahead and give that a shot. And I've had this little badger hair brush soaking in there for several minutes, and we're going to just go ahead and wring that out just a little bit and get started. Anyway, I told Don that I was going to be doing this video tonight, and he was rather excited. I actually had intended on doing it last night, but I was just whooped. I was tired out. Had a lot to do yesterday, and by the time I got to what I would call a free moment, it just, the sleep kind of wanted to pile up on me. Now this is coming along all right. The past use of this brush, it seems to lather up okay now. When I first got it, it seemed like it struggled actually to make a lather, and now it seems like it's doing all right, getting better anyway. I think I just needed to soak it a few more times and see if I could get it conditioned and softened up, but it seems to be doing okay now. Well, I think I'll just go with that for now. Do a part lather up on the face. This brush has just a little bit of scrub to it. Almost not a real scratchy feel, but almost just like a little prickly feel to the end of it. And maybe those ends will split out and soften up like a boar, but so far it's an unusual feeling to me compared to a boar. I'm gonna go ahead and wet this up just a little bit more, as normally I do lately with the straight razor shaves. I like to have a good sheen on it where it will wrench from the blade easily. You know, I was watching, and I posted on the Wild West Shaving Co. page on Facebook, I posted a video by Mike Baker where he's talking about lathering, or, you know, the purpose of different consistencies and such, you know, where you want a thicker lather for a double edge shave, you know, or safety razor, and the importance of having a lather that's actually the right consistency or thin enough to wash clean from your blade when you're doing a straight razor shave. I've got about 1 day of growth on it, not much here, so I guess it's really going to put this razor to the test to see if I got it sharp enough. I did get my Japanese water stones in today, and I made a, or at least I think a good attempt at taking it through the course on from a 1,000 grit all the way up to a 10,000, and this will be my test right here to see if I did okay. I'll be putting it to the face. Another thing, I have a little special announcement to make after this video. So when you get through watching this one, I may have it up already. But be sure to watch it. You may find it very interesting. Doesn't seem to be doing too bad. I wiped it clean there. As you can see, it's cutting the hair. And it's not as tuggy as even the other razors that I've used prior. And I actually took this from what I would call a blunt edge. When I received the razor, it really didn't have any kind of an edge at all. Probably had not had it for several years. And I'm not trying to take all at once, just getting what it'll catch right now. On the first pass. I'm finding that the less I worry about trying to get everything all at one time, the better off I am. Just a little less irritation to the skin that way. All right, let's lather up for another pass. Add a little water. And to me, that's just about right. I can just almost see through it. I'm going to go for a with the grain again. Just a little tighter to the face. what I'm doing is, like on that second or the first pass, I held it a little bit closer, and now on this pass I'm tipping out just a little bit more. To pick it up just a little closer. There may be somebody that tells me that that's the wrong way to do it, but that's what seems to be working for me. And it's cutting hair, so we're getting the job done. One step closer. Now this way I'm going to do on the third pass again. It's kind of semi against the grain. On the sides of my face here. Usually I do a side pass to the ears, and it kind of picks it up on a bias. So it's not like completely lifting that hair up, it's somewhat cutting it off more, to where if I do an upward pass that it's a little smoother and easier to do. But also, if it gets it close enough, then I won't do a fourth pass. And I can still hear it cutting hair. Anyway, I wished that I had been able to see those receipts with that signature of Jess Chisholm on that, where he had paid my great grandfather to help out on the cattle drive. But as I also hear tell that my grandmother had a sister who early in age had a case of dementia, and somewhat strange, and that one day that she went over and loaded up all of her father's things that had belonged to my grandmother, and took and went and donated all of that stuff to some Catholic church that was nearby. And those items have never been seen again. A lot of family pictures and as well. I guess those receipts were, cherished and held on to by my grandmother, but they disappeared when that happened. And I don't know, what do you do? If you've got a family member that's just not in their right capacity of thinking and does something like that. And now when I went back and attacked this against the grain under the neck, what I have done is, and I'm laying that blade down just a little bit closer again. I just almost fumbled there. Good thing I fumbled in the direction that didn't lay me open. Let's see if we can do, as some people are calling it now, in the tradition of old Scotland. Let's do some pickups. This area right here, it has such a strange growth pattern. Seems like I got to go about 14 different directions to catch up with it. And I believe that's got it. Okay, folks, thank you for joining me. And I encourage you to go over and take a look at Don Fraser's channel. He goes by Don F. I will put a link in the bottom of the description here. And if you would like to try this scent that Don has inspired, pick up a can of Wichita. It's good stuff. A little spicy, a little bit floral, a little dark from the coffee, a little grassy, a little smoky. I think you'll enjoy it. Well, thank you all. I'm going to go ahead and dry off here. And I will see you in a few minutes.